Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. Hope you enjoy. The Swarm, written by Bob Bands. We call them the Swarm because they are the only ones who've been able to resist us for so long. Most of the galaxy's civilizations fear us. Well, a small part of it bows and calls us their masters. Yet, that was before we first encountered the Swarm. The very first encounter we had with them was an extremely primitive object, barely advanced enough to even be called a ship. Their nonsensical alien babbling meant little to us, as they had become our next target for subjugation. To show their species that they should give up, we slaughtered the entire crew and studied their computer banks. We gained nothing from it, as they had scrubbed it clean. We couldn't get their homeworld, nor any information about them. Only thing that we had were corpses and the blasted object. Time passed, and we thought that we'd never see another one of their vessels. Then we encountered them yet again. This time the ship looked advanced enough to be called a ship, and we reacted quickly in the hopes of gaining the location of their homeworld. They were all slaughtered, and their attempts at fighting back were pitiful. Yet they held out long enough to blow up their own ship. Yet more time passed, and we encountered a third ship. This one was advanced enough to fire back at us when we tried to approach it for boarding. It took us by surprise, but our armor was strong enough to withstand the gravitational force of a black hole, and their ship was quickly subdued. Yet our initial boarders had problems. They were being pushed back until we sent reinforcements. The division was sent to assist, and they started to retake the ship until the Swarm sent out what can only be described as an energy pulse sent in every direction. It was strong enough to temporarily overwhelm our electronics, and that pulse was apparently all that they were waiting for. The ship detonated itself, taking a division of our forces with it. I could bore you with the details of every other encounter, but sufficient to say, after that encounter, we started to find their ships at almost everywhere, both primitive and advanced. Yet, it was one specific encounter that changed it all. The encounter started off the same as always. At this point, we had stopped bothering to even try board them, as they'd always detonate themselves. Yet the ship we encountered was advanced enough to actually damage our armor slightly. We quickly blasted it to atoms and were in the process of determining how much damage it had caused when suddenly another one of the ships appeared. We'd never encountered more than one ship during our encounter. The ship that left whatever they used to travel looked advanced, yet ancient, and we had to use more power than before to destroy it. Yet, the second we had destroyed that ship, another appeared from FTL, more advanced than the previous one and slightly younger. We kept destroying their ships during that encounter, yet for every ship we destroyed, another would quickly take its place. Eventually, they were appearing faster than we could destroy them, and at that point, the ships that appeared looked almost as if they had just left dry dock. They were starting to drown out our fleet in numbers, primitive, yet rapidly becoming more and more advanced by every ship that appeared. At that point, we retreated from the encounter and hoped that would be the end of it. We were wrong. 10 years after that encounter, one of our colony worlds went dark. We sent an armada to investigate, the same one we had used to subjugate most of the Galactic Council. Only one ship returned from that group, heavily damaged, with their crews missing and the databanks containing only one message: Terra, Avengers. I stood there before the Galactic Council begging for help. They're slaughtering everything we send at them. Worlds are going dark every week. We can't fight against them. They're too strong, too powerful, and too many. We fear that they will exterminate us with the galaxy. Please! The Galactic Council seemed to converse with each other before a third one spoke for them as a whole. Your species will learn the lesson which you forced us to learn so long ago. There will be no help. from their eyes. We'll never know exactly, for sure, just what happened to our first exploration vessel, but given how hostile the enemy is to us, we can only assume that they destroyed it. I hope they died a quick death in that case. I still remember that day. Our FTL drive was so slow on our ships, yet fitting a drive on a hollowed-out torpedo containing a recording, and you'd have yourself a makeshift FTL courier system. Information could reach us literally hours after it launched from its origin. The exploration ship had a deck dedicated to storing thousands of these things, and they used them frequently every day. Whether it was messages to family members or officers asking for orders or solutions, they were always being sent in both directions. Yet one day, the ship stopped sending FTL torpedoes, and they didn't answer any torpedoes sent their way. Our second exploration vessel was still in the shipyard, yet we dedicated an entire civilization's efforts into rapidly completing it. We managed to complete it in a matter of 2 months and discovered just how fast we could work as a species when actually united. The second ship was named after some mythology. I think it was called Zeus or something. Either way, the crew had Navy personnel assigned to assist them, and the ship was outfitted with the state-of-the-art technology, including experimental technologies, and their departure was broadcast all over the entire planet. And so began the long journey towards the last known position of our lost ship. Zeus was equipped with an experimental communication system and had extreme delays between transmission and receiving. They could transmit their current position, and it would be hours out of date when we got it. Yet the system was slightly faster than using courier torpedoes. The entire crew used this system from time to time, and eventually we received their last transmission. Commencing FTL jump towards last known location of Pathfinder. Stand by for further information. We never received anything from Zeus after that message, and our entire homeworld became depressed. For we had lost 2 ships, hundreds of human lives just gone. At one point, someone suggested that perhaps the cosmos aren't as empty as we think they are. Perhaps there exists other life in the galaxy, and they're not friendly to us. Our planet became angry from this suggestion. We decided that we would advance our technology for 10 years before we tried again. The third ship was named Prometheus. It was entirely staffed by Marine Division. It was equipped with our first space weaponry and every bit of advanced technology that we had at our disposal, including an experimental distress beacon, designed in such a way that we'd hear it no matter what. The launch of Prometheus marked the start of a new age of war. At first, we didn't know what to call it. Then Prometheus was silent, and we received the distress beacon's energy pulse. Overnight, our species as a whole wept for our losses as we came to terms with the fact that the galaxy wasn't empty. We weren't alone, but those who shared the galaxy with us were hostile. A memorial was constructed within a month. Nothing big, barely half the size of the ISS. Yet it existed when those who lost their loved ones could grieve there. A year went by, and we expanded our ship production capabilities. Where it once took a year to construct a ship, we can now have 10 built within 5 months. Every ship we built was given the same order: pick a direction and map out the extent of the enemy's border. Every one of those ships reported back valuable information before being destroyed. By the end of the first year since the loss of Prometheus, the memorial had been expanded to the size that matched the ISS. One day, someone made an addition to the memorial. We'll never find out who did it, as the memorial has no security within it. The addition was a simple pyramid to the very center of the memorial. It was a holographic projector, capable of projecting a hologram. In this case, it was a hologram of our galaxy. It also had 3 words floating above it: Terra, Avengers, always. It became our very motto. We'd avenge those who lost their lives to this enemy. The second year went by more or less the same. Our production capabilities had increased to the point where we were producing small fleets every month. Yet for every ship we sent out, they'd always perish. At this point, We realized that the enemy we faced was so advanced that they would withstand any technology we'd hoped could give us an edge. In the end, we took a page from the Soviets. If we couldn't destroy them through increasingly advanced technology, then we drowned them in numbers. Every planet within the solar system, and within what little territory we had, all of it was designed to be used for the purpose of increasing our shipyard's capabilities. The 4th year marked a moving of the memorial. We moved it from our home system to a star system within our territory. A star system that was incapable of sustaining life. That star system was harvested, the planets being converted entirely into one lone construction, a Dyson sphere, the final resting place of all those who died to the enemy, and a promised future for those who perished in the war. It was given a name, Cradle. That year also marked the advancement in nanotechnology. Nanites are now used to create our starships. The only limit was being how fast we can provide materials. The 5th year had 2 of our ships returning back from the front line, both carrying information that changed our view of the war. The first returned unscathed, which was an oddity in itself. Yet they carried information about new civilization that they had encountered. One that wasn't hostile. The second vessel looked like it had gone through hell, yet the info it carried made us repair it rather than scrapping it. The ship had managed to take a few pictures of the enemy forces before escaping to FTL. The pictures were grainy at best, but it gave us a rough estimate as to how many ships we're going up against. It also gave us a face to the enemy, something that we can now point and say, "These are the ones that killed your beloved. These are the ones who would see us exterminated." But worse. It gave us a conduit to focus the anger, the rage that had slowly been growing with every name added to the cradle. The 6th year started out with us finally establishing contact with our friendly neighbor. Advancements in technology had finally allowed us to understand them, and this story only further grew our hatred and rage for the enemy. These neighbors were forced to pay tribute to the very foe that we were fighting against. This foe was so powerful that it almost ruled the galaxy with an iron fist. For a brief period, our species considered surrendering. We couldn't fight against an entire galaxy. Yet those words from Cradle seemed to contain a deeper wisdom than we had previously realized. Terror, Avengers, always. If the galaxy wasn't strong enough to fight back against the enemy, then it would fall to humanity, Terra as a whole, to fight for the galaxy's freedom. We'd drown the galaxy in numbers and then push the enemy to extinction. No, we'd teach them the same lesson we'd teach the galaxy, that all deserve freedom and equality. For something was clearly wrong with our enemy if they deemed themselves higher than others. We would never drive another sapient species to extinction just for believing in the wrong things. And so, the children of Terra were set to work. They suffered tremendous losses, yet they kept pushing. And eventually, the galaxy as a whole finally tasted freedom, yet again, after such a long time. The cradle was expanded yet again, and now held not just the names of the humans who lost their lives in the war. It also included those who perished fighting in the war, including the names of those who once considered a great enemy. Terra avenges always. End of story. I would just quickly like to thank the T5 channel members and patrons: Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Barkey, It's Difficult to Pronounce, Lord Azrakul, and Arcadian.